Our topic session this morning is at least to discuss the recommendations of the CAD project team. Joe has many members of the team here, and we delayed for a couple of minutes for others to come in, and I think we have a pretty complete group this morning. So I think this discussion may involve discussions of CAD, possibly dispatch, possibly radios, and whatever other possible combinations are out there for us. So I think that we would have a wide-ranging discussion and get a feel for some of the different political subdivisions that are involved in this as to the direction that they think that we should go with this whole thing. So, Bill, if you would like to lead us off, why don't you just introduce everybody?
I will.
Everybody knows everyone. But,
I will. This is our CAD project team. First of all, is Dean McKim. He represents the Canton Communication Center. Jamie Wood, the Assistant Director of the Red Center. Mark Busto is the Director of the Red Center, excuse my back. And Bruce McAllister is with the Sheriff's Office, and he holds many titles. I'm not much what he's holding today. And with that, John Whitlatch is also on our team, and as is Ray Friedman. And both of them are from Canton Fire. The project team, myself and Mark and Bruce were part of the team that actually picked our consultant, Leo Berbelis. So we've been together for quite a long time. The CAD project team basically was put together to not only review who our consultant would be, but also we were put together to look at the 9 vendors that submitted bids for our countywide CAD system. We did that over a lengthy period of time. I think the bids came in February, somewhere around there, and we've been working on that since then. One of the hardest parts of the project was the matrix, which is something that RCC Consultants developed, and it's a sort of a grade on every specification that the vendors have, and you're probably looking at 250, 300 specs, each one of them. So we had to grade each one of those. Time consuming, but it helped us understand even better the CAD system. We got through that process with our consultant, and we've narrowed the 9 vendors down to 2. The 2 vendors, I don't really want to release their names, but I will release their quote.
by the way, who's that man to your left?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I didn't think he needed the introduction, but Randy Gonzalez is here also as the chairman of our governance board, and our CAD project team is part of that governance board, so Randy is also here for that. I will give you the 2 quotes. We asked for 2 different types of bids. We asked for a primary bid, which was a bid to develop the RFP and develop a CAD system for the county. And then we asked for another bid for a 5-year maintenance program. The CAD system would have 1 year of warranty on it, and then following that, we asked for a 5-year maintenance agreement. One bidder was at $1,176,935 for the primary bid, and he was at $972,410 for the 5-year maintenance. The other bidder that we're interested in, his primary bid was $1,600,000, but his 5-year maintenance agreement was $509,000. Both of these combined were very close, about $2.1 million.
Sorry, what was that maintenance on the second one?
It was $509,720. Now, that bid was based on the fact that we would purchase all 5 years. If you were going to go year to year to year, it would have been more. But it was an upfront. I'm going to give you the money up front. Here's the money up front for 5 years, and that's how that was based. So both bids are fairly close. After reviewing them through the matrix system and through other different qualifications that we had, other systems that they built, what size communities would they build the systems for, were they able to build a system of this type, and those were the 2 that we came down to. The next part of our process would be to ask these 2 companies to come in and demo their system. That's an expensive issue for them, which they would do. That's part of the process. However, it is the opinion of our CAD project team that we believe that we should have a little bit more of a commitment that we're going to move forward before we ask these 2 companies to come in and put that effort forward for the demos. Demos would probably could take anywhere from 2 to 2.5 days for each company. they have to demo every aspect of the RFP, and they have to show how they comply, or how they don't comply, or what alternatives they have for those issues that they can't comply with. So it's a lengthy process, time-consuming. So it is our opinion that we would like to have a firmer commitment on whether we're going to move forward with the countywide CAD system before we ask for these demos. And I guess that's what we're here for, to discuss that. I would like to add a few things about this, and I think, I don't know if the CAD project team has any more to add to that. I think we're all, the CAD project team and the governance board, Randy is all on board with the fact that we think if we're going to pursue a countywide CAD system, it should be for the purpose of consolidation. It should not be for the purpose of distributing that out to 8 dispatch centers, who, if they got it, would probably never then consolidate, which has always been our primary goal, is to consolidate.
So you're going to build it and want them to come?
That's the idea. We feel a little bit better about a consolidation now than we did, let's say, 6 months ago or 8 months ago. We believe that there's a little change in philosophy of both the city and the county sheriff as far as consolidations. The thing that stopped our consolidation was back in March of 2011. We asked the 2 centers, the Canton Communication Center and the sheriff, to sign a letter of intent to lease their property to us, to the governance board, the one that would manage this system, for $1 a year, which was verbally agreed to but never in writing. So we actually did a lease agreement with that included, and that was on March 3rd, 2011. And up until, that has never been signed. So without that lease agreement, without us knowing we had a place to put a consolidated system in place, and Canton and the sheriff was always our choice, they knew it, but for varied reasons, it never came to fruition. We believe now with a little bit of a change in both the city and the sheriff that there could be a new emergence of wanting to consolidate. But we would agree that if we're going to do a countywide CAD system, it should be for a consolidated dispatch, one that we primarily wanted to do, the one that's in 2 buildings, one system in 2 buildings. So,
How would you utilize the CAD to entice consolidation?
you know, I'm
what's your
going to be
ideas
honest.
on that?
I'm going to be honest. You would hope that just the fact of the consolidation and the elimination of the transfer of calls and a better and more efficient operation would entice them. That's the enticement. I don't think it's solely the CAD system that would entice them to come. That's just part of a consolidation. You really have to convince these entities that the consolidation, the reorganization, whatever you want to call it, is the most important thing that you have to deal with. We have out there right now, the county purchased a $2 million 911 next-gen system that is out in 8 different dispatch centers. And these dispatch centers now have the capability of receiving their own landline phone calls, and they don't. No, I don't know. I wish I could be that person out there that could say, this is why they don't want to. I'm sure money has an effect on it, as everything else. So you could tell them you're buying a Cadillac, but they're satisfied with the Ford they're driving, and they're not going to put the money forth to go to the next step. So the CAD system, Tom, is not something that would entice them. It would just make the consolidation that much more solid. It would make it more a firm consolidation. It would show that we have the right things in place to do
You might want to add, though, I don't believe you can have consolidated dispatch center without that CAD. I mean, the sheriff is in dire need of a CAD now. The city of Canton's in dire need of a CAD now. The Red Center does not need a CAD. If you're going to consolidate to the plan that we've had for years now, the CAD would be needed to do that.
You can't you can't have a countywide dispatch center without a countywide CAD system. You need to have all the fire and police safety entities on that CAD system in order to evolve into a countywide system. So, and you know, we're speaking directly at the $2 million that is held by the county commissioners. You know, there was resolutions back in 2008. I have copies of that you all know about, that money was set aside for capital improvements of a countywide CAD system. I'm sorry, a countywide dispatch center. I had even given Mike Hankey back then a budget, because if we talk about a countywide dispatch center, I mean, you just don't have that exist without some costs that are involved in it. And we had what we looked at about $2.6 million, and I did a little bit of a budget for that, which included the CAD system at $1.25 million. But we were looking at a recording system, which we may not need now. I know they got a new recording system for the 911, the new 911 Next Gen, but you have to have a recording system that includes the radio system that you're using. So we looked at that. We looked at new workstations. Pretty much the sheriff's workstations, he probably has enough there. 9. We looked at 9 at each facility. Canton does not have that. We looked at renovation cost for Canton would be about $100,000, and we looked at new dispatch workstations at about $100,000. We also had we did some training with dispatchers. We would probably have to renew some of that training.
Let's go back to the diesel costs to consolidate.
Yes. Yes.
Go back to those again.
I can give you a copy of this, but I'll go back to it. I had $1.25 million for the computer-aided dispatch system.
Yeah, that's just the purchase without discussing maintenance side of it.
That's correct.
And I want to go back to that, but let's keep going down this.
That's correct. I did include in that budget $1 million for the IP consoles that would be needed if you did go to an 800 radio system with Marks to go to the P25. I included $1 million if you went with every console in the county. If you went with the 18, it would probably be about $1.4 million now. But I had budgeted about $1 million. I budgeted $100,000 for an IP-based recording system. Again, I know that the county bought a new recording system with their 911. I'm not sure exactly how that would incorporate with the radios. I know right now all their 911 calls are recorded on the new system.
Yes,
Gene?
yes.
I don't know if that, can you not incorporate the radios with that?
Yeah, we're gathering radio information.
Okay. So that probably is an expense that wouldn't have to be paid. Workstations, we did already bought, the county bought workstations for the sheriff. I think you have 9 now, Bruce. I had budgeted about $100,000 for that. We probably wouldn't need that many. We need about 4 more for the city of Canton.
Help me, wait a minute. You said $1 million for IP consoles. What's the difference between consoles and workstations?
They're the same.
Pardon?
They're the same thing.
So why are they 2 different categories, or, I'm sorry?
I just use different words.
So do you need both?
You want me to consistent?
No.
No, just help me with, yeah, just don't,
No.
yeah.
No.
I'm easily.
So I need
confused, obviously.
new dispatcher consoles. What I mean by that is, the city now has, I think, 5 consoles.
Yes, 5 and 3.
Right. So in order to consolidate it, we looked at 9. So they would need 4 new consoles. When we talked about the MCC 7500 consoles, those would have to be upgraded on all of them. The counties, the 5 that they already have, the ones that the sheriff has, if you went to an 800
Yeah, but wait a minute.
P25.
If you can buy 4 new ones for $100,000,
No, that was for
which I.
some that we already included with the sheriff. It's probably about half
Okay,
of that.
start over on this whole topic. Just start
Okay.
over with consoles and workstations. Start,
Okay.
pretend you haven't said anything to me yet.
Okay. Well, let me
Tell me how many they are and how many they cost to upgrade them or to buy new ones or whatever.
We were looking at 9 consoles. Let's just call them all consoles. No, let's call them all workstations. We were looking at 9 workstations in each building. 9 in the city, 9 in the sheriff's office. Okay? The sheriff's office, okay? The sheriff's office already has 9, I believe. Correct, Bruce? The city already has 5. When I made this budget out, the county didn't have 9.
I
Okay?
don't care when you made the budget out, I don't care.
I'm trying to explain why the price was $100,000. We'd already spent about $40,000 in consoles for
Just
the
talk to me
county.
about today.
Okay?
Tell me what's happening.
$60,000 for consoles for the additional consoles needed at the Canton Communication Center for consolidating into 2 dispatch centers.
So you need to buy 4.
I would need to buy 4.
Each one costs,
I'm gonna say, I don't remember right now, Tom, I had $100,000 down here, I didn't put the number. You're probably looking at 20,000 each. No, about 15, Bruce?
For the IP console,
No, just the consoles themselves, the workstations.
yeah, I'd say you could commit about $5,000 to $10,000.
So you're looking at $40,000 for them.
so you need to buy 4 at $10,000 each.
That's, yeah, put that down as a budget.
That's not the IP.
Right.
And then you have to
Okay, now
upgrade
you have 18 consoles, okay?
Okay,
Now you need to upgrade those 18 consoles. If you do move to a P25 system, you need to upgrade them consoles to what they call an MCC 7500. They're all Go to Leads now, that's the title of the console, that's the make.
okay, what's that per?
About $75,000 a console.
It's in 7,500 grand.
And now buying, of course, these are all negotiable, that's a Motorola price, I'm not sure if they're state priced or not.
That's where the 1 million comes in?
Yes,
So 18 times 75,000 is what?
1.8 million.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry.
Do the math.
Do the
Give me
math.
the math.
I didn't know we were gonna get into this detail. That's fine.
It's your
I
detail.
forgot who I was dealing with.
Well, your detail, not mine.
1,350,000.
Okay, is that a better number, do you think, or?
I thought 1.4 million is what we were looking at.
Okay,
It's higher than what I had projected, but this projection was 3 years ago.
okay. I mean, yeah, just ballpark, so, these, these are costs you said that would take to consolidate.
Correct.
So right now I have 1.25 million for the CAD purchase. That's
That's
still a-
what my
okay
budget
number.
was, depends on
Yeah.
which one of those two
Yeah,
we go
okay,
with.
ballpark.
Yes,
Forget all these middle numbers now, I'm at, do I still need 100,000 for the recording system,
no,
for the recorder?
no,
No,
no, they bought that with the,
okay, so we don't need that.
no.
Okay, but I do need to buy 4 consoles for Canton at 40,000, which would cost 40,000 bucks.
Correct.
That's a good number. And then I need to upgrade all 18 at 75,000 bucks each, which is 1.35.
Correct.
That's only if you go to Marks.
Pardon?
That's
That's,
only if you go to Marks. We
that's
don't need.
if we went to Marks.
If you went to Marks,
If
you
you went to
If we
Marks.
did not
we don't
go to
need
Marks-
do that.
don't, you can spend that money.
Well, at some point in time, we spend that, let's say, even if we don't go to Marks and we kept our own system and upgraded it, we're going to spend that.
At some point in time, you're probably looking at upgrading to
Not
that.
immediately.
Not
So
immediately.
that's not really a dispatch upgrade cost immediately, that's a dispatch plus 800,
That's
plus
correct.
next gen 800 radio cost.
We had always put in our original budget, when we did this, that we were gonna upgrade to the 7X platform, that's why I kept it. But it's not something, it's probably something that could be done 2, 3, 4 years from now.
You guys follow this up, and I've had to do this before.
Just for the sake of layman terms, and make sure I'm on board, so you guys are on board. We're talking about consoles and workstations. Workstations are a desk. They're expensive desks. They go up and down and they do fancy things that dispatchers use. The consoles are the actual equipment that they use at that desk. Is that correct? It's 2 different pieces of things. One of them is hardware, that is strictly furniture, basically, and the other one is
The guts.
It's the guts, it's the thing that does the dispatching, it's the computer that sits on the desk basically. And those new computers do not need to be upgraded unless we would make the decision to go to Marks. And I don't think that's gonna be the recommendation of our board to do that now, just because it's going to be cost prohibitive.
How would you have any more costs, so, any other, again, these are ballpark numbers, but again,
You
to
know, we-
consolidate any other,
We would,
Large numbers associated with
you know, there would certainly be, there'd be a construction cost at the Kent Communication Center right now.
you said $100,000.
That's what I had said, $100,000. Now, I didn't get an architect's look at it. We did have a layout of how we would do it if we wanted to add 4 more consoles. We have a layout. I didn't get an architectural bid. I didn't get anybody's bid. It's just off of my top of my head, which is as accurate as you want it to be.
Joe, getting back to the whole consolidation thing, what's gonna be the incentive? I can see that the city and the sheriff coming together to do it, but what's the incentive for CINCOM or some of the other ones to use this system?
Our main goal was basically the GeoCom study that was done in 2007, I believe. And that was to eliminate the transfer of calls. And we're not doing that. They have felt, even with the study, we always knew that we shouldn't be transferring calls. The study also said that we shouldn't be doing transfer of calls. This would make it a more efficient operation and you wouldn't transfer. In other words, if you use your cell phone right now, you're not going to the dispatch center. You're going to the Stark County 911 call center. And they're going to transfer that call to someone, hopefully the right person.
But by consolidating these two, if I use my cell phone, it would go to the dispatch center?
It would go to the dispatch center
Only one
because
center.
we'd all be there.
The way the center would work, Rich, is it's only one center. When that call comes in, it doesn't know if it's gone to Route 62 or 30th Street. It's just gone to the next available dispatcher. So those two are working as one. If you decide one day you want to train at one of those centers and shut it down, you could direct all the calls to one center. If one would blow up or a tornado would come through, you have a redundancy issue with the other center. Joe put that plan together years ago. The plan has not changed. And the other, beyond, I guess to answer your question, beyond just public safety, the most important thing is it should be a huge amount of savings to the city of Canton, to the Red Center users. I mean, once you put all those dispatchers into a room, it takes far less dispatchers than it does with 8 current dispatch centers out all over. So it's more efficient, and it should be much safer.
We originally did our budget, we thought there was, I calculated about 103 dispatchers in Stark County dispatching at the different dispatch centers. If we consolidated the system, I think I had 66 dispatchers that we removed. You would also consolidate supervision. You have maybe 9 supervisors in each dispatch center, 8, and you would only need 1. So the consolidation was a more efficient operation, a safer operation by not transferring calls, and certainly was a cost savings. I mean, that was a cost savings.
Yeah, but one of the reasons why they're smaller, and again, I mean, we're not totally optimistic with all the smaller ones who would consolidate, and one of the reasons is simply for the reason that some of the dispatchers in the smaller entities do jobs other than dispatching, and they would have to be replaced anyways, and therefore they actually wouldn't have cost savings on the cost savings side. They still would have the efficiency aspect of it and the safety aspect of it. But they would not have the cost savings, and cost savings are probably what's going to drive orderly consolidation.
There's a trust thing that goes on too, and there's a loss of control issue that the small agencies have.
Sure.
Because I've got to fit into your policy now, and I don't want to. Maybe I don't want to. Maybe I feel like I'm different than you. I have different needs than you, and that concerns them a lot. I think.
I've heard so many stories.
No, would the Red Center, would you guys go to this consolidated system?
That was the way the board wanted to go, right?
Red Center's operated by Logic.
Yeah. I've told this speech many times. The Red Center has, how many agencies, Mark, 22? 21 agencies operate out of the Red Center. If you took those 21 agencies with the police, I'm sorry, the sheriff's office and the city of Canton, you have over 75% of the dispatching. You're never going to get SEMCOM. And when I say that, I shouldn't probably ever say never, but it is highly unlikely. They have their own reasons why they need to stay. A place like North Canton, I believe at one day it just becomes fiscally almost irresponsible for them to stay open. I think the taxpayers will eventually cry out for it, because to them it was one of the hugest savings, but I think they'd be one of the last ones to come for the reasons that you've heard. The couple dispatchers they have do far more things in that office other than just dispatching. Minerva, the dispatcher's a jailer and an office, I mean, they have, but obviously, if we can start out with 75%, I think every one of you would get that out of the ballot box. That's the way to start. I mean, if we had those three entities do this, and back to what Mr. McKim said, the issue of trust is there's been mistrust to the county, to the city, to Jackson Township. The only way that you do away with that, and we've come so far on this, is you turn it over to the Stark County Council of Governments, where everybody has a voice of representation. The Red Center has been that model since 1986. Those 21 agencies meet monthly. They sit down, they decide what their budgets are. There's no labor negotiations for any government. They hire their own accountant who does the payroll. The county wouldn't have to do the payroll. Mark hires somebody that does the payroll, and when the audit comes from the state auditor, that person gets audited as an entity like a political subdivision. They hire their own labor attorney to do their own labor negotiations. They are bargained for. They are PRS jobs. This is something that has worked since 1986. There's no reason not to expand it to the county-wide level. And that's been the model for this. And to get that to happen, we have already reached some obstacles. It's excuse me, the Council of Governments could not be a political subdivision to run the 911 center, I think. So we had that law changed. Representative Scheuring changed that law. The other problem that we came up against, and you came up against, was your 911 cell phone tax was ready to sunset. Again, we had Representative Scheuring help put that in as a permanent tax. Now that 911 cell phone bill and the ongoing property tax that you have for this would go in, and everybody would share that because it would come off the top of the cost of operations of the center. Both those funds would be used, and everybody in Stark County would share, driving the cost of the center down some. Then the way it works is after you put those budgets together, you need the lawyer, you need the accountant, you need obviously all the personnel costs, insurance costs, healthcare, that types of budget put together. Then me and Joe would have to do what we started to do. Go out to these entities, not build it and say, hope they'll come. We'll go out and say, this is going to be your cost, are you willing to join? And if we don't get enough, then don't build it.
You're confident it'll be at a lower cost to the taxpayers than what it is currently?
We've run these numbers several times, and it's always come out lower. The problems that we're having, and Commissioner Kirby knows, the thing that we're going to have to build into this that we've never built into enough into it is a capital budget. And to this, every one of us, let's say all the political subdivisions that joined, it's probably, I don't know, 30, 40 of them. Then you come up with that budget we talked about. There's going to have to be a line item in there for capital, because we are going to hit the day where your radio system is going to no longer exist, and we're going to have to upgrade. We're going to have to go to Marks. I think we all know that. But right now, I think we can exist like we are for, I don't know, these guys know better than I think keep telling me 4 or 5 years with the existing radio system. If you take that 4 or 5 years with a capital budget and everybody's contributing, that would have to be built into it. Again, people would see that number before they join. We'd have to come up with what everybody felt comfortable with as a capital budget, a target to hit it.
I've had a conversation with Joe. We had this conversation in anticipation of this meeting last Monday, I think, or whenever. But if the recommendation is that do CAD if it leads to consolidation. I think that we need to, again, re-examine, again, not a lengthy re-examination, but re-examine all the numbers that were initially done. I think the numbers are there, maybe updated and so forth, but you have to re-examine it, even the fact that I don't think we leave some of these small entities. You know, you said you went from 103 to 66 dispatchers, and that was your big number before. I don't think we use those numbers anymore when we don't believe that necessarily some of these entities are not gonna go. So maybe redo those numbers for the three major side, you know, for the sheriff, for Canton, and for the Red Center, redo those numbers and see what they are, and then have some alternative numbers if political subdivision A, B, C, and D joins into them, we can have some alternatives.
I would agree with that, Commissioner. I mean, we've been asked that question, although the numbers certainly need updated. The one thing we did find is at one point we went back and looked at our study again and said if we didn't get these, and we looked at the ones that were potential, ones that we knew probably we eliminated the ones we knew we probably wanted to get the Suncoms. And it really doesn't change the cost per call that much, because when you eliminate them, you eliminate dispatchers to go with them, and that's obviously the most expensive cost. So it does, you know, the cost of operating the center goes down a little bit when you're doing less. Mark, I know for years, Perry Township has been an ongoing, I think once a year they look at joining the Red Center. And they're one of those organizations that we talked about. They do their own police dispatching. I think their police chief would love to get out of the dispatching business because he has times that the dispatcher's not there, he's ended up having an officer dispatching. And every time we give them a price at the Red Center to bring them in, and they shop it once a year, it's not cheaper to them to do it because they're not getting a true cost of it. You know, if they're only pricing out so many dispatchers and they're not really counting the cop that's sitting for council.
Two things, Joe, let's get back to CAD. One is what do we do and how do we pay the maintenance fee, because your consolidation number did not include the CAD maintenance fee, which runs depending on which way you go from 500,000 to 900,000 over 5 years, so it's all a cost of at least $100,000 to $150,000 per year that we would have to fund in some way, shape, or form.
We've always, as you and I have discussed, we've always said that we feel that that's the responsibility to begin with the three major centers that would initially get this CAD system, the Red Center and the City of Canton and the Sheriff. The City of Canton, you know, depending on which one of those systems you go with, if you went with the more expensive CAD system with the lesser price for the maintenance, you're probably looking at something that Red Center pays right now, about $35,000. I think they might pay a little less than that now. But if you went with the other one because you thought they were a better, again, our goal as a CAD project team is to get the best system. We're not really supposed to look at the dollars until we decide it's the best system. That's the process that we're in with this bid. But if you went with the one that was more expensive than $900,000, that's about twice as much. And whether the Red Center and the Logic Board is willing to double their cost for a countywide CAD system, I'm not sure. I'm sure Mark has had that on their table, on their agenda for a while. City of Canton probably doesn't have an objection. That's probably pretty much what you're paying now, $65,000. So their cost to pay that annual maintenance fee probably wouldn't be that much difference in what they're doing now. I'm not sure about the sheriff. I know the sheriff has said he's looking for a new CAD system, and I don't know that he would object to those maintenance fees. Of course, that's part of your budgetary decision. I think one of the other issues that's on the table with the CAD system, and it's been on the table from the very beginning, is who's going to own it. This is kind of sales tax dollars, county sales tax dollars. To my knowledge, we still haven't gotten an opinion from the prosecutor's office, and maybe you haven't, I haven't seen it, or maybe it just hasn't come. Can the county give that money to SCOG? Or can the county buy the CAD system and give it to SCOG? Or does the county own the CAD system, runs the CAD system, and the county dispatch center is sort of just a part of it? We're not sure. Initially, it was my understanding initially that money could not be given to a COG or a SCOG. But that's another part of this whole process, as you know. Commissioner Burnaby, this is a process you get to find that out. if the county owns it, and it's not part of a countywide dispatch center, there's probably has to be an administrator somewhere along the line to administrate it.
And what's the status of the state CAD? Why don't you update us on that?
Well, the CAD, we've been looking at the state's CAD. We're not totally right now comfortable with their CAD, the CAD, not the state, but the Motorola system that they use. But with that, there is improvements, but that system wouldn't be available to us till probably at the very earliest this time next year. So it's not that that system exists, no municipality, only state agencies are on it now. They're not even on the new CAD system, that hasn't been developed totally yet. So I think they want to have it up and running in January for their state organizations, their state departments, and then open it up to municipalities in about a year from now. I'm sure by that time they've probably taken out the wrinkles of that CAD system. There's some questions that we have with it, but we've been looking at it.
Well, is it a viable alternative? I mean, again, let's face it, at the rate that we are progressing on these issues, by the way, for us to wait a year until June of 2014, assuming that Canton's CAD can survive and some other issues like that might have more immediacy, on the grand scale of things, by the time we were to put consolidation and other things together, it's going to be June of next year anyways. Is it worth waiting for?
Yeah, let's make
Technically
sure.
and or cost-wise.
We haven't, it's not free.
Yeah.
Don't go on the CAD, it's not free. There's a cost that would be generated from the state to be part of their system, and there's a cost to us on our side to have license fees and those type of things on our side for that. Initially, that cost on our side was going to be about $1.7 million, which didn't even make sense to us because we had a CAD system we could buy for cheaper than that and not be consolidated with them or not go to their system. But those prices have somewhat changed. We're dealing directly with Marks. It is Marks who has the radio system and is also creating this statewide CAD system. It has some wrinkles. I'm sure they'll be worked out. I guess the one issue that we have most is that we would be the first municipality or county on the system, non-state government. I hate to be the beta site, but we'd rather have somebody else work out the wrinkles before we do. But that's all something we would look at. I know your MIS director, not MIS, but I think it is MIS director, is on the state committee for their CAD system. So with your GIS, I'm sorry, right? His name was Brian. Yeah, he's on their team with the state. He feels comfortable that our GIS system would be compatible and would work well. We were really concerned because we feel that the county has probably one of the best GIS systems in the state, and we didn't want to. We wanted to make sure we could keep that system. Brian and I met, and he gave me somewhat of some confidence that that wouldn't be a problem in his mind. So that's a plus.
They have, we've been in constant communication. I mean, Darrell Anderson, who's heading up that project, has been great to work with. We've had numerous meetings with him, and Commissioner Burns has been at most of those meetings. But at this time, they're almost cost prohibitive. It's cheaper to do our own CAD, and the bids we're getting than what we're seeing from them. And where the expense comes in is, you brought up GIS, is if we went to their CAD, we have to pay for our own interfaces. So we'd say, okay, we want to join your CAD, but we want to use our current GIS system, which is probably one of the best there is in the state. You guys have done a remarkable job of building that. The other thing in our CAD is we have a bit in there to interface with the CGIS system. So it's checking everything in CGIS while it's happening. And to write those interfaces, it's over $1 million. To go in there and say, hey, we like your CAD, but we want it to be our CAD, and how much is it going to cost us? We'd have to go out and hire a vendor to write those interfaces. And it's a major expense to do that. It's almost cheaper to just buy our own. Now, every time we talk to them, the price seems to go down because they really are courting this. I really believe they want us, but I haven't seen anything at this point that I don't think anybody would agree that has enticed us to the point that they're just is way too expensive.
So is that interface creation a one-time cost?
Yeah,
And
it would be
then maintenance
upfront.
going forward? So
Right.
what's the maintenance cost breakout for Marks as opposed to maintenance for the bids, the proposals we discussed?
We haven't gotten solid numbers, but I think the maintenance probably would be a little bit cheaper with the state because they're spreading it over a larger area. More departments are having it. But again, it's fairly new for them too. And so we haven't gotten numbers that I'd be ready to compare to yet. But the numbers we do have would probably be, from a maintenance standpoint, would probably be a little less than what our maintenance agreement would be. And I got to tell you that the CAD system, be it their system or our system or anybody's, is 90% software. So somebody always said, how long will this last? Is this a 5-year deal and then it's broke down and you got to buy a new? Well, in reality, if you continue to do your maintenance, you never lose the CAD system. You never lose it because it's software. And your maintenance includes your updates. So, and I'm not the expert, but would you all agree that if you continue with your maintenance beyond the 5 years, even though they're giving you a 5-year price, you need to keep that maintenance going if you want to keep your updates and if you don't want to have to buy a new system in 10 years. So the hardware can go away. I mean, we're talking probably 10% is hardware. That obviously can be obsolete at some point in time. But the main cost is software. And the software, as long as you continue to upgrade software, it's like Windows. You keep getting different Windows, it works. It's new. It's like new.
So if you're looking at 1.2 or 1.6 for your primary on this RFP, and if you're looking for, what did you say, 1.5 million to start up with
For
the
the
state?
interfaces?
Yeah.
Well,
That's a guess too.
yeah, we never got that.
I mean,
We had license fees that was, once we showed some interest, that was reduced almost in half. So we don't know.
you calling them every day. maybe-
Well, and you can't, and don't blame Marks. Don't blame Marks for this. It
Right.
isn't Marks.
Right.
It's their provider. They're a CAD provider that is
Which is
anxious to
Motorola.
get people, which is Premier One, which is a Motorola product. So they're anxious to get people on it. And I think they're anxious to get somebody started, some municipality, county, somebody outside the state. So am I comfortable, are we comfortable with it? I don't think we're comfortable at this time with it. Now, we're looking at a CAD system for the county, so we're comfortable with that if we're going to move forward. 6 months from now, a year from now, if we don't have a countywide CAD system, and we're still operating off of some separate CAD systems, that may be a different look.
I guess what we want to avoid, obviously, is it takes us 6 months to implement a CAD system that we buy, presumably, whatever the number is. 6 months from now, are we going to wish in June of 2014 that we had purchased one and instead had gone with the state? I mean, that's
Yes.
that's a piece
I
of
will.
information that we're trying to, one of the pieces of information we're trying to ascertain. But
I will.
you ask us for guidance and
Yeah.
direction, but your comments were that your recommendation, both of your CAD team, which is here today, and the governance board, is that purchasing the CAD result is a good idea only if it leads to consolidation.
I think that's our position.
So I guess what we have to ask you to do is do that restudy, and again, I think we've had
Okay.
a conversation, the numbers are out there, you might have to update wages and some other things like that, and take another look at it. Update the probability of consolidation, both dollar-wise, and so, look at the economic side of it, but look at also the other aspects of it, and then let's come back and let's all kick around the discussion, let's have the discussion. What is the probability of our consolidating at least the county, Canton, and the Red Center, given all of these numbers? One of the numbers has to be for the Red Center. If we buy the CAD, it's going to cost you maybe more in maintenance fees for this CAD than it does for the existing CAD that you have that you're already happy with. Does that change the Red Center's mind on this thing, the Logic Board's mind on this thing?
I think
I don't
Logic,
know.
Mark, obviously is all their meetings, they are not interested. If you went out and bought this CAD and said, here's a CAD, they're gonna say, thanks, but no thanks. It just drives their cost up from what they're spending. Is that probably pretty accurate? They have no reason to do that. If you went out and said, we've got enough people who are gonna build one center, and we're gonna buy this CAD, and again, the governance board has passed a resolution that we try to state that no money should be, tax dollars should be used that doesn't lead to some type of consolidation. We're not gonna give money to somebody to keep on going in the wrong direction. So I think then they would say, yeah, we'd be in favor of that. But I believe the direction that we're heading, and I hate to even bring this up, but Tom's way involved in it too. I don't want to even bring up radios, but we have a letter from the police chiefs that they do not want to purchase a cab. The Police Chiefs Association believes we should spend the $2.5 million in radios. I've talked to, and I believe the direction the governance board will head is a full plan of regionalization, and I would think that the $1 million would be spent on a cab, and the other 1.5 would be leveraged to buy radios, and that would make everybody happy. Western Stark County is biting at the bit right now to switch over to 800. Police and Fire in Massillon and Jackson both want to go to 800. The firefighters, I believe, had a grant, and now they're considering, they're worried it may not happen. They felt real confident at the beginning of the year, but some of the federal money's dried up. They're not sure they're going to get that. Police have never had an access to money. We did apply to the state, and we were turned down for the radios for Massillon and Jackson. But I think if you take the $1.5 million, and let's say you do a 70-30 match or a 50-50, whatever we decide, or you would decide, and say, Jackson, we'll give you 70% if you want to spend 30%. We can buy more radios that way, and all the existing regular radios that are out there would go to the smaller entities. And we could literally take all of Western Stark County to 800, which is a major issue. If Jackson and Massillon, the two largest ones, would do that, you got 800, new 800s in their hands, they have enough radios to then disperse to the rest of Stark County. And instead of those things sitting on shelves collecting dust bunnies, we can actually be using those radios. There's some of them that have done that, and has made it their prior, there's a Canal Fulton, who's on 800 out there now. And they've used those radios as their frontline radios, so it's just a few more, really. But Tom, it all goes back to exactly what you said. We have to be able to put together that plan, go out to the political subdivisions and say, are you interested in doing it? And if the Red Center is, when we put those together, then the city and the county are willing to turn over those buildings and that equipment, then it happens. I think you only have to really deal with 3 entities at this point, which I say 3 entities, and again, the 21 of those are in the Red Center.
So I think we need 2 things. One thing then is the re-examination of the dispatch.
I've already asked Mark,
Put that together, yes.
Mark to help me with a committee from Red Center, or a couple. You were going to make a call and maybe reply.
Yeah, I've talked to him, yes, and he said he would make somebody available.
Okay, so we need to do that. I mean, I'm willing to do that anytime.
Okay, start this afternoon. But another one with them, try to harden your numbers with them.
I'm sorry.
Darrell Anderson, with
Oh.
the state cat issue, and again, see if we can at least have some numbers that we can put down on paper, say, hey, you have to talk to us now. We're at the point now where these RFPs have been received for some period of time, and the 2 that are out there, I mean, we either have to, proceed forward, I think, or walk away from this transaction for everybody's interest, because there's time limits associated with this, so I think we need to probably get together again within the next 2 weeks again, 2 weeks to 4 weeks to do this.
I think we need to meet the groups from both the sheriff and the Red Center and the city to determine what their needs are to make that consolidation happen. Is that what you're looking for? Or are you looking for something?
Something to give back to us that we can give you back and go or not go. And the other thing is, so you have 7 people that you're, 7 bidders that you're not considering in the top 2 tier. Do you want us in some way, shape, or form to reject or deny those bids, so we can go back to them? Because you have had calls from people saying, we have security, we have costs associated which are posted, we'd like to get our money back, and we're not being considered. Would you like us to?
Let me talk to our consultant. Our consultant has sent them out letters, so let me check with him, Leo. He would have been here today, but I see no reason to pay for him to come here.
The question is whether there's a purpose of paying you to come here today.
That's a good point. But I can tell you this, it's a lot less than paying him to come here.
I think
Chief, one note too, if I could.
Randy's idea of using some of that money for radios, it serves another purpose, I think. When I talk about the issue of small departments who maintain anonymity and control.
Can you speak just a little bit louder? I'm sorry.
When I talk about some of the departments wanting to maintain their own anonymity and control within on a local basis, I think if we can get them to join in, any group, whether it's centralized dispatching or centralized radio use, I think the centralized radio use is here, is now, and is something that could foster getting the centralized dispatching too. You know, I mean, they come in and we work together as radio users on the internet system, then we've got to build a trust, a level of comfort in one another. And you might get us after centralized dispatching.
Of course, our problem is, in order to do a CAD system and upgrade the dispatch, and do, for example, the marks or buy our own system at some point in time, we're talking about a number that's going to cost all the political subdivisions that are participating in Stark County probably, you know, if you add them together, what, $5 to $7.5 million. We only have $2.5 million here, so there's a choice of priorities, at least to this amount of money. Then have to start thinking about, you know, a different amount of money to go to that next step. But I agree that more than we do things together, the more facilitates consolidation.
I would make the argument to that, the longer we wait, the worse it gets.
Yes.
The number, until we get a budget and get as many people contributing as possible to that capital budget, the number's gonna get larger every year we wait. And, you know, when I think about how much money, I read a story in the paper about what you guys are spending on your sewer district between you and the city of Canton. I'm sure that had to be a long plan to save that money, to drop that kind of check at one time. And every year we wait, that number just inflates.
Three quick things about the radio system. In our budget, we never included the radio system as far as any, except for the consoles, if we did go to MCC 7500. And the two other issues is the radios, which I think is vital, getting radios out to the firefighters and policemen. But then the upgrading of the towers is another issue that you have to look at. So there's a number of different issues with radios that.
The so-called regular radios, would they need any sort of upgrades, or
We have
pull them
a
off the
complete
shelf and charge
inventory.
them?
We have a complete inventory that Motorola did for us of every 800 radio in Stark County, not just the regular.
Are we gonna ask where they all are?
Yeah, well, the sheriff said he still, at our last meeting, he said there's still some sitting in the boxes at the sheriff's office. They've never been distributed.
Right.
But they did give an inventory, and it was a problem for Canton, because some of their radios aren't even upgradable. There was some, I think they're in service though, aren't they?
Yeah,
Police
service
or
departments,
fire,
not
service
police
departments. But, yeah, we have a total cost of those, whatever it costs to upgrade everything, including those radios.
1,000, I believe there was 1,000 radios. And they're, I think they can be upgraded to P25, but they cannot be encrypted. So police departments, a lot of police departments won't want them because they can't be encrypted. I'm not sure if smaller departments, if that's an issue for them or not, but in talking to the police departments, they like their radios to be encrypted. But the fire departments don't need an encrypted radio. They're out there.
And that's what we were planning, we was hoping to get those out to the fire departments. Although, like you say, Canal Fulton and Lawrence Township, I think police departments are using the radios for federal things.
Louisiana.
I would add, though, that this is a window of opportunity of talking Director Price, who has become pretty active in this whole project, and talking to Sheriff Meyer. If we don't get this done now, it's never gonna. I mean, these two, I think, are both ready to push forward in this project. It's a whole different direction, and the thing that stopped it in the past was the contracts that were not signed, that were sent out. I believe those contracts would have the best chance of being signed that I've seen since we started.
Well, why don't you put the numbers together quickly?
Okay.
And then talk to both the sheriff, and we'll go ahead and participate too, and then to the city of Canton and talk to them too, see what the probability is of consolidation. I I guess the other thing to emphasize, because the media is here today anyways, is that we have had some success in consolidation since this was first initiated. We've gone, what, 13 to 9, is that correct? Analysis.
What?
Dispatch centers.
Oh, the
Consolidated.
centers, yeah.
There was 11 down now. Actually,
Okay.
there'll be 8 once Plain Township is taken over by the sheriff.
Louisville, East Canton, and Plain, and Waldron.
Okay, is that,
Central.
okay.
Plain Fire.
I mean, what you've done is you've purchased a system, the 911 Next Gen system, and those dispatch centers that have those are remote hosts. The whole idea when we purchased that was we pulled them in from those dispatch centers into one center. You don't have to buy a new Next Gen 911 system to consolidate. The pieces of the puzzle are there from that standpoint. So, I mean, the puzzle is I have a 911 system that exists in the county. I can put that in 2 buildings like I wanted to from the beginning. It already exists. Wouldn't cost very much for that to happen. I can get a CAD system that would bring that countywide together. And somewhere down the road, we bring in one radio system in. I mean, I know that's broad saying that. Anyway,
We also, Tom, have moved the 911 center that sat in that bunker down there in the sheriff's office. They're now in with all the other dispatchers, and they're hopefully one day will start getting cross-trained too. Because the Plain is, their fire dispatchers are cross-training and dispatching for sheriff calls and vice versa.
Anything from Red Center? Last thoughts on this?
We'll take this information back. We have a logic meeting next Thursday, so we'll take this information back and share it with them. We'll put together a subcommittee to work with Joe to try to see what costs are going to be and move forward from there.
Chief McCann, anything, last thoughts from Canton? 2 thumbs up?
This is worse than a forfeit. This is like a lot of directions here, a lot of information. To take on.
we're used to it already.
Keep throwing them out there.
And Bruce?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to make some decisions this year, in the next 2 years, for sure. With our integrated dispatch, it'd be nice to be able to move more bluntly ahead here.
Our next governance board meeting is the 11th, 2 weeks from this Thursday. You're on the board, and obviously the commissioners are welcome to attend. It'll be at 1:30 on Thursday at the sheriff's training room, is what I call it.
Basically be a recap of what happened here today and see any consensus we get. I think we're gonna hear the same thing. Can't see much until we see numbers.
Anything else, Commissioner Brady?
No, sir.
Brad? That being the case, we thank all of you for your time today, and definitely just do it again, but stay in touch with me about the,
You get any
both of
names?
these issues. I'm glad to sit in any meetings with you.
You get any names?
Talk to you afterwards.
Thank you very much.